Hey guys, today we are starting to talk about three-dimensional figures. So we've been working in 2 dimensions, which are our figures that are flat on a paper. But now we're going to get talking about 3-dimensional figures, which are our figures that are like in real life, okay? So this is I'll write it down for you in case you want to go take a look. We are on page 374 to 375 in your math book if you want to take a look at that while I go along. So 3-dimensional figures have 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. I'm going to take a pause, let you grab your book if you want to, and I am going to grab a good 3-dimensional figure for you. All right, it's the quickest 3-dimensional figure I could find. So 3-dimensional figure, okay? It has a length, it has a width, and then a height. So those are our 3 dimensions of a 3-dimensional figure. Okay? All right, so there are different kinds of 3-dimensional figures, and that's what today's going to be about, is being able to identify the different types of 3-dimensional figures and to be able to name them and find all the components of it. So first word that's important is a polyhedron. Okay, polyhedrons are a 3-dimensional figure whose faces are all polygons. So pretty much they're all a shape that is not round. All right, so this is a polyhedron because every single side of my shape is a square or a rectangle. All right, this is not a polyhedron because this circle is round, and polyhedron means many sides. This doesn't have many sides, it's round, all right? Sorry, polygons, not a polyhedron. All right, a face, get another color for you. A face is another important word. A face is a side, the flat 2-dimensional side of a 3D shape. Okay. The next word is an edge. This right here, this is an edge. An edge are where 2 faces meet each other and they meet at an edge. So the sides of the box, the straight sides, those are called edges. Okay, and then a vertex. A vertex is a point where 3 or more edges meet. So kind of like a corner would be a vertex. So 1, 2, 3 edges meet at this vertex. All right, we'll talk about other kinds of vertexes where more than 3 edges would meet. And then a base. A base is the face that we use to name our polyhedrons. There are either 1 or 2 bases, and we'll talk about how you know how many bases there are and how we know what they are. Okay? All right. So we're going to talk about 2 different things: prisms and pyramids. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a prism. This right here is called a rectangular prism because our base is a rectangle. Okay. Prisms are usually our boxes, right? Any form of a box, that's going to be your prisms. They are a polyhedron. They have two parallel congruent bases. So there are two bases, okay? Two bases that are the exact same size, okay? So congruent, parallel, those are all important ways to figure out their bases. And the other faces are some form of a parallelogram. So that means they could be a parallelogram, which remember, a parallelogram is something like, well here, I could draw some for you right here. So a parallelogram would be, okay, this is a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram, a rectangle. This square is a parallelogram, or even a rhombus. I know if I draw it, it's not even going to be equal, okay? So those are parallelograms. Okay, now we're going to talk about a pyramid. Here's a pyramid. Important facts about pyramids. They are polyhedrons. Why? Well, if we take a look at a pyramid, we'll notice that all of their sides, this one is triangle, 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 maybe a square or a rhombus, something on the bottom. So all of its sides are polygons. Okay. Pyramids have one base that can be any polygon. Okay, so it can be a square, a rectangle. It could be a, let's see, what else could it be? It could be a trapezoid. It could be an octagon, a pentagon, a hexagon, okay? So there's lots of choices for pyramid bases. The other faces are triangles, okay? Because they go up to one point, they're going to have to be in a triangular shape. And then the last thing is that our other faces meet at a vertex opposite of the base. So a good point right here to show you what a vertex is, this thing up here is a vertex. This thing right here is also a vertex. I'll just label them all. Okay, this vertex is where 1, 2, 3, 4 sides meet. And this one has 1, 2, 3 sides there. All right, so that's our vertex. Let's label on these an edge. So this thing right here, that's an edge. And I'm going to label one over here. That's an edge. All right. Okay. And then on our pyramid, very specifically, this is our base. Okay. On our rectangular prism, we could say this one it's sitting on is its base, but there's some different rules for rectangular prisms. All right. Okay, let's do some examples. Example number 1. Naming prisms and pyramids. So we need to identify the base. So we identify the base and faces of each figure, then name the figure. So let's look at this one first. Okay. With rectangular prisms in this example, we're going to say that these are our bases, because there's two, right? And it's always the one parallel or on the opposite side, okay? So we're going to say that we have two rectangular bases. We are going to say that we have four, well, let's see. This side here, rectangle, rectangle, 3, 4. So we have 4 rectangular faces. I'm not going to color the faces because it would get confusing. Okay. So, because this side doesn't come to a point, pretty much, we know that this shape is going to be a prism. Okay. How do I know what kind of prism it is? Well, what kind of shape was the base? It was a rectangle. So we are going to call this a rectangle. Let's see if I can spell. Rectangular prism. Why? The base is a rectangle, and we know that it's a prism. Mostly because it doesn't come to a point. Also, because we have two parallel bases. All right, let's look at the next one. Here's my next problem. And we need to talk about this shape. So let's start with the base. Here's my base. Okay. So we don't know exactly if this is a square or a rectangle, so we're going to say that it has one rectangular base, because we're not sure. All right. It has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 triangular, we were just calling them faces. Sorry, I almost wrote sides, but they're faces. Okay. How else could I know? I could count 1, 2, 3, 4 sides to my base. So I know there has to be 4 sides up to my vertex. Okay. So what is this figure? Well, it meets at a point and it has a base of a rectangle. So we are going to say that it is a rectangular pyramid. Why? Our base is a rectangle and our faces meet at a point, so we know that's a pyramid. All right, next one. What's this thing? Okay. So the first thing we need to figure out is where the bases are. The tricky thing about bases is that bases aren't always what are laying on the ground. Okay, bases could be on the sides. What's important about bases in our prisms is that we know that bases are the shape that are the same and across from each other. You'll notice in this shape, there are only 2 shapes that are across from each other that are the same, and that's going to be our triangles, and the other one goes back here. Okay, so that means that we have 2 triangular bases. All right. So now we got to figure out what's going on with our faces. Well, to connect our triangle, we have to have 1, 2, 3 sides. So we're going to have 3 rectangular faces. Okay. So we know it's a prism because it has 2 bases that face each other. What kind of prism is it? Well, what kind of bases do we have? We had triangles, so it is a triangular prism. All right, here's our next shape. So let's start with the base. The nice thing about these shapes is there's only one base, so it makes it a lot less confusing. So down here, this is our base. Okay, we have one. Let's figure out what kind of a base it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Has 6 sides. So what shape has 6 sides? A hexagon. So it has one hexagonal base. Okay. Now let's look at our sides. If it's a hexagon, that means it had 6 sides, so we know it's going to have 6. This looks like a triangle, so 6 triangular faces, which means that we have a pyramid, because they meet at a point, and we need the base to name our pyramid. So we have a hexagonal pyramid. Okay. All right. Other 3D figures that are not polyhedron. We have 3 other kinds. We have cylinders, we have cones, and we have spheres. Okay, we're going to talk about cylinders first. So this is what a cylinder looks like. Okay, so think of things that are like cylinders. Okay, maybe think of a soda can or a soup can. Those are all
a bean can.
Oh yeah, a bean can. Those are different kinds of cylinders. All right. Here's information about cylinders. They have 2 parallel congruent bases. So their bases are the same. And their bases are also circles. So I'm going to highlight that we have 2 bases and they're circles. We'll use our base pen, which was the light blue one. Okay. So it's a cylinder. The next one is the cones. Cones have 1 base that is a circle and a surface, so the outside part is the surface, and it comes to a vertex. So cones have a point.
You're talking about these.
The last shape is a sphere. A sphere would be like a ball, okay? There are no bases on our sphere.
And there's this smiley circle is a base.
Yeah. A surface that is all equal distances from a given point, okay? What do all of these shapes have in common? What makes something a polyhedron? We talked about it earlier. It has to do with it being circular. So we have round sides and not flat shapes on them, okay? All right, so let's look at some examples. Okay. The last thing is that it says you can use properties to classify our 3-dimensional figures. So that's what we're going to do right now. We are going to classify 3-dimensional figures. So it says classify each figure as a polyhedron or not a polyhedron, then name the figure. All right. So first thing we need to do is we need to tell if it's a polyhedron or not a polyhedron. And then we need to give our figure a name. So, shape number 1. Is it a polyhedron or not a polyhedron? Are all the sides polygons? Are any of these sides rounded? No, they're not rounded. They're all polygons, so this is going to be a polyhedron. Okay. The next thing we need to do is naming our figure. So to name a figure, I'm going to put a note here. To name a figure, we need to know the base and then what type of figure it is. Let's see, we'll put type. Okay. All right, so if we take a look here, our base is going to be opposite our point, so it's going to be this shape right here. All right, so what is that shape right there? What's that blue shape?
A triangle.
A triangle. So the base is a triangle, so we are going to have a triangular. Okay. Because our sides come to a point, we know we have a pyramid. Okay. Because we picked it as a polyhedron, our only options were a prism or a pyramid here. Okay, let's look at our next one. Our next one, let's see if it's a polyhedron. Okay. This edge here, because this bottom is a circle, the outside part is rounded, so that means it's going to be not.
I came up here to get you because we're ready.
Okay. Okay, so this shape is not a polyhedron. Okay. We have two bases that are circles. So if we look at our page from last time, two bases that are circles means that we have, well here, I'll pull it up. We have a cylinder. Okay, all right, let's look at the next one. Polyhedron or not, are all of the sides polygons? No, because this is a circle, that means we have a rounded side. So not a polyhedron. So we'd look at our not polyhedron shapes. Okay, the one that looks like this one is a cone. Okay, so I'm going to write cone. All right. Okay, last one. Here's our last shape. Okay. Do all of these sides, are all the sides polygons? Well, let's see. Rectangle, 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 pentagon, pentagon. Yes, they are all. So this is a polyhedron. Okay. If we look at this polyhedron, let's figure out what our bases are. It's the sides that are the same and parallel. Well, that would be actually this shape, not our shape laying down. It's this shape right here. Okay. So in order to name this, we need to figure out, first of all, what shape the bases are. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. So that is called a pentagon, or we're going to say pentagonal. Okay. Is this a pyramid or a prism? Well, it has two bases and does not come to a point, so we know it's a prism. So that is a pentagonal prism. All right, thank you for bearing with me through this whole video. I hope these explanations helped. If you have any questions, please reach out to Mrs. Lynn or myself. Have a great day.